to the Guelph Humane Society's Wild About Pollinators virtual field trip. My name is Jenelle White and I am the Volunteer and Education Coordinator here at the Guelph Humane Society, or GHS as we like to call it for short. Now if you haven't done so yet, make sure you download our worksheet that goes along with today's field trip, which you can find at the link below the video. Now I'm standing here outside of our brand new building at 190 Hanlon Creek Boulevard in our new pollinator gardens, filled with all of these beautiful flowers. Now these flowers aren't just pretty, they serve a very important purpose in our gardens here at GHS. Raise your hand if you've ever sneezed while smelling a flower. I know I have. We sometimes sneeze when smelling a flower because of pollen. Pollen is a yellow powdery substance that flowers produce in order to make more seeds through a process called pollination. Now, pollination is a very important stage in the life cycle of a plant. Pollination occurs when pollen grains are moved from the stamen of the flower to the pistil, and this can happen in one of three ways. Either by the wind blowing pollen grains through the air, water, or by animals carrying pollen grains from one plant to another. These animals that move the pollen grains are referred to as pollinators. Pollinators pick up little grains of pollen on their hair, feet, or wings when drinking the nectar of a yummy flower. These little grains of pollen then travel with them and fall off on the next flower they feed on. Now, there are many different animals that are considered to be pollinators. Can you guess which of the animals on the screen here are considered pollinator animals? A, bees, B, bats, C, butterflies, or D, beetles. If you guessed any of the animals on the screen there, you are correct. Bees, bats, butterflies, and beetles are all considered to be pollinator species. Other examples of pollinators include hummingbirds, ants, flies, and even small mammals like mice or possums. Now, pollination is very important as many of the fruits and vegetables we eat come from plants that depend on pollination to grow. Can you guess what percentage of the world's crops rely on pollination? A, 25%, B, 50%, C, 75%, or D, 100%. If you guessed C, 75%, you are correct. 75% of the world's crops rely on pollination in order to produce the fruit and vegetables we eat. Fruits and vegetables like apples, bananas, peaches, potatoes, tomatoes, and even chocolate rely on pollination. Without pollination, we would have very few options for dinner. And we're not the only ones that rely on these plants for food. All animals rely on plants for food, shelter, and oxygen, and those pollinator species rely directly on those pollinator plants for a source of delicious nectar in order to eat. So the process of pollination to produce more seeds is a very crucial process so we can have more and more plants. However, plants and the animals that rely on them are under stress due to habitat loss and fragmentation as cities continue to grow and expand outwards into natural areas. Because of this, we've created over 12,000 square feet of pollinator habitat on our property here at the Guelph Humane Society with the help of TD Friends of the Environment and Pollination Guelph. This will help provide food, nesting, and habitat supporting all life stages of those pollinator species, from larvae to cocoons to beautiful monarch butterflies, enhance local biodiversity, and provide a connection between our site here at GHS and the natural environment around us. You see, our new building here at 190 Hanlon Creek Boulevard backs onto a 165-acre environmental reserve teeming with wildlife, and we help a lot of wild animals here at GHS. What do you say we head on inside and see some of the wild animals that are currently with us in need of our help right now? When people think of an animal shelter, they often think about cats and dogs, but we don't just help cats and dogs here at GHS. In fact, every year, over 1,500 sick, injured, and orphaned wild animals come into our care here at the shelter. Now, wild animals are the animals that you can find outside, living in your backyard, in parks and forests that don't have a family or a home, but just live out in the wild environment. Which of the animals on the screen here do you think are wild animals that we help here at the Guelph Humane Society? A, snakes, B, crocodiles, C, elephants, or D, squirrels? If you guessed snakes and squirrels, you are correct. We do not help crocodiles and elephants here at the Guelph Humane Society, as those animals are not native to our area. Now, when a wild animal arrives in our care, the first thing we want to do is see how it's doing. Our animal care team gives the animal an exam to figure out if anything's wrong with it. What kind of things do you think our animal care team looks for when they're trying to figure out if there's something wrong with a wild animal? A, cuts and scrapes, B, if they're smiling, C, injured wings, or D, how cuddly they are. If you guessed injured wings, cuts and scrapes, you are correct. If after the examination our team doesn't find anything wrong with the animal, we're then able to release it back into the wild exactly where it was found. Now, do you have any guesses as to why we would release a wild animal right where it was originally found? Right, that is the area the animal is familiar with. It is the animal's home or habitat. In their habitat, the animal knows where to find food and water, and it likely probably has its nest or den there as well. Now, if an animal is not well, maybe they have an injury or are sick or orphaned, we start providing medical care, whether that be food and water, antibiotics for an infection, or pain medication to help with the pain of a broken wing. After providing that initial medical care, our team of volunteer drivers then transport the wild animal off to a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. Do you know what a wildlife rehabilitator is? A, a hotel for wild animals, B, a vet for wild animals, C, an amusement park for wild animals, or D, a school for wild animals. If you guessed B, a vet for wild animals, you are correct. A wildlife rehabilitator is a place where a wild animal can go until they can get all better. Once a wild animal has fully recovered, the wildlife rehabilitator can then bring it back here to the city of Guelph or Wellington County where it was originally found to release it back into its habitat. Now that we've talked about all the steps that we go through here at the Guelph Humane Society in order to help wild animals, why don't we head on inside and we'll take a look at one of the wild animals currently in our care. Now we're here with Lindsay, our wildlife care attendant, who is just about to start trying to feed a baby bunny that arrived in our care earlier today that was found without its mom. So she's going to see if she can give it some food. Oh, baby.
Yeah, I'm not doing so hard, boo-boo. Not going to take it. Dear.
Thanks, Lindsay. Now let's take a look at another wild animal that's currently with us. This here is a little baby bird known as a grackle, who was also found all on its own without its mom. So it is staying here with us here at the Guelph Humane Society until we can get it off to a licensed wildlife rehabilitator who can care for it until it is old enough to be out on its own. Now, you may be wondering what you can do to help wild animals or pollinator species within our community. Well, the number one thing you can do is to pick up your garbage. Our trash can cause a lot of hazards for wildlife. Plastic pop rings can get caught around animals' necks, they can ingest our food that we leave behind, or some animals might even use plastic as nesting for their babies, which could be very dangerous if the babies ingest it. Another very important thing you can do is to make sure you keep your dogs and cats on leash and supervised when you're outdoors. Unsupervised pets can potentially injure or hurt wild animals. It's no secret that little cats and kittens, like baby Nala here, love to hunt. In fact, cats are actually the #1 cause of bird death in Canada. So it's really important that if you are going to let your dog or cat outdoors, that you have them on leash or keep them supervised in order to make sure that they're not causing any harm to any wild animals. Of course, you can always plant your own pollinator-friendly garden, just like ours here at GHS, that will provide important habitat and food for pollinator species like bees, birds, and butterflies. But finally, the most important thing you can do for our wild neighbors is to leave them be. Sometimes when we help wild animals, we actually can do more harm than good, as wild animals can get very stressed out by us humans, as we're big and scary. It is always best to enjoy wildlife from a distance, but if you are ever concerned for a wild animal, give us a call here at the Guelph Humane Society, and our staff can provide you with tips on what to do in order to help that wild animal and bring it into our care here at the shelter in a relaxing and stress-free way. Well, that is all for today's field trip. We hope you enjoyed seeing our brand new pollinator gardens, as well as some of the animals currently in our care here at the Guelph Humane Society. Now remember, if you have any questions from today's field trip, please be sure to pass them on to your guardian or your teacher and have them send us an email at programs@guelphhumane.ca so we can answer those for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to be able to see you at our new building sometime soon. Bye-bye.